On November 22nd, 1990, this one guy walked into a wrestling ring and literally changed the WWE forever. In just a few minutes, he didn't just dominate his opponents, he started a 30-year legacy that would completely redefine the entire company. This is the story of how one match changed absolutely everything. To understand how insane this was, you have to see what the World Wrestling Federation was like in late 1990. The super bright cartoonish colors of Hulkamania, which owned the 80s, were starting to get a little old. Hulk Hogan was still the top guy, but you could feel a massive change coming. The Ultimate Warrior was at his peak, and new stars were rising, but the formula that made the WWF a global giant was showing its age. The roster had huge personalities, but nobody had the kind of dark, terrifying edge that was about to be unleashed. The stage was Survivor Series, a huge Thanksgiving tradition. The 1990 show in Hartford, Connecticut was all about huge elimination tag team matches. A major player at the time was the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, the perfect rich guy villain. For weeks, DiBiase bragged about a mystery partner for his team, a final secret weapon. This was a classic trick to build insane last-minute hype. At the same time, a giant speckled egg just sat on the stage every week, promising a big reveal at Survivor Series. Fans were convinced this egg would hatch and reveal DiBiase's mystery partner. Mark Calaway, the man who became The Undertaker, has even said he was terrified he was going to be the guy popping out of that egg. A career-killing gimmick before he even started. Who could have guessed that the actual reveal, the infamous gobbledygooker, would become a massive joke completely overshadowed by the real debut happening that same night? When Survivor Series started, all the focus was on the biggest names: Hogan, Warrior, Dusty Rhodes. DiBiase's team already had the Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine. When it was time for the match, DiBiase grabbed the mic. He didn't introduce some flashy hero. He introduced something else entirely. Led by his manager, the obnoxious Brother Love, a towering figure walked out of the darkness. He was introduced as Kane the Undertaker, a name they dropped almost immediately. Dressed like a 19th century mortician, black trench coat, striped tie, and a giant hat, he moved with a slow, terrifying purpose. This wasn't a character meant for cheers or boos. He was meant to inspire pure awe and fear. In an era of neon colors and yelling, he was a black and white nightmare. The commentators, Gorilla Monsoon and Rowdy Roddy Piper, were almost speechless. Piper's legendary line, "Look at the size of that ham hock!" wasn't just commentary. It was a real reaction that everyone watching at home was feeling. The stage was set. The bell was about to ring on a match that would create a legend. So the bell rings, and who starts for the $1 Million team? The Undertaker. Across the ring was Dusty Rhodes' dream team, which had the Hart Foundation, Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Koko B. Ware. The very first person to lock up with this new force was Bret Hart. Hart, maybe the best technical wrestler of his time, literally bounced off The Undertaker like he'd hit a concrete wall. The Undertaker took Hart's punches with a creepy calmness, his face totally blank. He wasn't selling the hits, he just stared back, a walking wall of invincibility. It was instantly clear, this wasn't like any other big man anyone had ever seen. He wasn't just big, he was an unstoppable force. After Jim Neidhart also couldn't make a dent, Koko B. Ware was tagged in. And it was here, about a minute into his TV debut, that The Undertaker made his first huge statement. He grabbed Koko, lifted him up, and dropped him with the Tombstone Piledriver. It was the first time the move was ever seen on a major WWF broadcast, and it was absolutely brutal. He pinned Koko for the first elimination. A fun fact, he actually performed the move with his back to the main TV camera, a total rookie mistake he'd fix pretty quickly as that finisher became one of the most famous in wrestling history. The dominance was just insane. He didn't just wrestle, he stalked. Every move was deliberate, filled with dark purpose. He wasn't playing to the crowd, he was there to destroy his opponents, piece by piece. When the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, one of the most beloved heroes ever, got in the ring, he also fell to The Undertaker. The Undertaker pinned Rhodes, taking out another legend from the opposing team. In just a few minutes, he had eliminated two decorated veterans all by himself. This performance set up the key parts of the Undertaker character that would last for decades. First, his size and strength were off the charts. But unlike other giants who are often slow and clumsy, The Undertaker showed off incredible agility. At one point, walking the top rope, a move that would become known as old school with the grace of a much smaller man. Second, and maybe the most important thing, was his psychological power. He seemed completely immune to pain. Opponents' best moves had zero effect. This wasn't just a tough guy act, it was the presentation of something supernatural, something not human. That quality became the core of his mystique. The fact that he was so committed, never breaking character, made everyone believe it. Mark Calaway wasn't playing The Undertaker, he was The Undertaker. The way he left the match was a genius move by WWE's creative team. Instead of letting their new monster get pinned, which would have instantly destroyed his aura, they found another way out. The Undertaker got into a fight with Dusty Rhodes outside the ring while protecting his manager. He kept chasing Rhodes, ignored the referee's count, and was eliminated by countout. It was a brilliant move. It got him out of the match without being beaten, keeping his mystique completely intact. His team went on to win, with Ted DiBiase as the sole survivor. But that victory was an afterthought. Everyone watching knew they had just seen the real main event. After this insane debut, the WWF didn't just throw The Undertaker into the main event, they played the long game. He was put in a bunch of short matches on TV against smaller wrestlers. These weren't about competition, they were about building his character. He would demolish his opponents, and in a terrifying ritual that made his persona even darker, he would literally stuff them into a body bag and drag them backstage. This kind of psychological warfare was unheard of in the WWF and quickly cemented his reputation as an unstoppable monster. A key moment came in February 1991 when the cartoony Brother Love was replaced as his manager by the absolutely perfect Paul Bearer. This is where things really exploded. Bearer, with his ghostly white face, creepy high-pitched voice, and funeral director vibe, was the perfect mouthpiece for the silent Phenom. He carried a golden urn, which was said to be the source of The Undertaker's supernatural power. The chemistry was undeniable. Paul Bearer could voice the dark threats The Undertaker only hinted at with his actions, adding a whole new layer to the character's story. That urn became one of the most legendary props in wrestling history. With his character now fully formed, The Undertaker made his WrestleMania debut at WrestleMania 7 in 1991, where he destroyed the legendary Superfly Jimmy Snuka. While beating a veteran like Snuka was a huge deal, this match was actually the first victory in what would become known as the Streak, an unprecedented 21 straight victories at WWE's biggest show of the year. The Streak would grow into its own phenomenon, becoming a main event attraction for over 2 decades. The company's belief in him was cemented just 1 year after his debut. At Survivor Series 1991, The Undertaker challenged Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship, the biggest star the business had ever seen. This set the stage for a career of unbelievable longevity. The Undertaker became a pillar of WWE, a constant force through every single era. He fought the megastars of the 80s like Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. He was a central figure of the new generation, facing guys like Bret Hart and Yokozuna. And when the Attitude Era arrived, he reinvented himself as the demonic leader of the Ministry of Darkness, proving he could adapt to a much edgier product. He would change again, becoming the American badass biker before eventually returning to his Deadman persona, with every change adding another layer to his legacy. That debut match at Survivor Series 1990 was the seed that grew into all of it. It proved that a character built on presentation and psychology could not only succeed, but could have a career that spanned generations. Mark Calaway's absolute commitment turned a gimmick that could have been a total joke into something timeless. He became the final boss of the WWE, the gatekeeper to the main event, and the respected locker room leader known as the conscience of the company. The story came full circle at Survivor Series 2020. Exactly 30 years to the day of his debut, The Undertaker had his final farewell, closing out his legendary career. This perfect ending was the company's own tribute to how important that first night was. The fact that his career lasted exactly 30 years, starting and ending at the exact same event, is the kind of perfect story you almost never see. The Undertaker's career has so many insane moments, from Hell in a Cell matches to WrestleMania classics. I want to know what you think is his best one. Comment your favorite Undertaker moment down below. And if you love wrestling history like this, smash that subscribe button because we're doing more. When that shadowy figure walked down the aisle in Hartford, no one could have possibly guessed the 30-year saga that was about to begin. That one performance at Survivor Series 1990 did more than introduce a new superstar. It fundamentally changed the creative DNA of the WWE. It created a wrestler whose aura was his most powerful weapon. It created a blueprint for longevity, proving that with insane dedication and smart evolution, a performer could stay at the top of their game for decades. From his first tombstone piledriver to his final farewell, The Undertaker's story was one of the most compelling ever told in professional wrestling. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2022, a final official nod to his immense contributions. But his true legacy was cemented long before that. It was cemented in the arenas that went silent at the sound of his gong. It was cemented in the legendary feuds that defined entire eras. And it all began with one match on one fateful Thanksgiving night, when a dead man walked into the World Wrestling Federation and gave it eternal life.